and welcome back. How's it going? Happy Tuesday. How's it going, everyone? Thank you so much for being here. I can see so many familiar faces and I love it. I'm having so much fun hanging out with you here. Jennifer, Carol, Sean, Steve. Sto bene, Steve, grazie. I love that we're learning Illustrator and Italian, and that's a very, very multifunctional class. So amazing. Actually, it's a stream. But Yasunari from France, nice to see you. I hope you're well as well. Andreas Aller, so much commitment from all of you guys. I can see so many people following my stream, and of course I'm in the chat with you during the other streams, so it's very amazing to see everyone committing and building this beautiful community here at Adobe Live. You're actually like my best friends because I'm always hanging out here in the house, of course isolating by myself, and thanks to Adobe Live and this amazing community, and of course you tuning in the chat. You're basically keeping me company every day, either when I'm streaming or I'm just in the chat learning from the other streamers here. I can see Carrie, I can see Laura. I'm just gonna scroll back in the chat because I was seeing a little bit of activity before I started. Jürgen, nice to see you, everyone. Very, very good to have you here. I don't know where I've got these earrings, Steve. I always travel a lot and I pick up a lot of pieces. I think I got this with I was traveling in Panama for an Adobe conference, and I actually want to take this moment to say hello to my friends in Panama. Civity Center had a very amazing time, and also Sus Ramirez was presenting there, and we had a little bit of a trip around Panama. So those are like my little treasures from traveling when I could do so. Austin, nice to see you. Deb, hi team. Also my dad in the chat. I mean, my family is learning how to use the Adobe Creative Cloud, and they're like over 70. So that tells you that everyone can approach. Yesterday, I've seen someone that was in the chat. I was watching the Adobe Live UK stream, and there were some people in the chat, like they were as young as 8 years old or 11 years old, and that's the beauty of being able to approach creativity at any age. That's the beauty of the apps, of course, and working with Adobe. Hi Anna, hi Carol. Yes, Carol, they are beats. Hi, Ada from London. Right, let's get started. Before we dive in, I want to tell you two quick things. So first of all, for those of you who are joining us today for the first time, we're going to pick up from where we left yesterday, and that's a very quick preview. As you can see, if you were here yesterday, I changed the colors a little bit. But if you are just joining us today and you want to work, I've made this file available for you so you can jump straight in and work with us. So let me show you how to get there. In order for you to access the file, all you have to do is to go to my website, and I'm sure the team is going to help us by sharing the link here, which is iamcladi.com/resources. In the resources page, you'll be able to find a ton of free materials, but in particular, we do have a get started file from today, which should be uploaded here. And as you can see, I splitted the folder. So it's exactly the same link in yesterday, but we have day one with our the starter photo. And then we have day two, which we're gonna see in a second. We're gonna creating some animation. We're gonna bring our lovely, simple vector illustration to life. And so you have here a post and a story for Instagram that we're gonna animate to promote our beautiful work on the net, and then vector memory, which is the name of the file and is exactly the file that I've been working with over here. This is the lovely preview thanks to Dropbox, and as soon as you download it, you'll be able to jump in right away exactly where I am. Kladi, resources, what font is that? Oh, Carol, that's what you were asking. My website. Right, so I have two websites and I build websites for a living. So that's probably that I never share too much with you about what I do. So Carol, quick reply, message me on Instagram and I'll let you know, because I don't know what on top of my mind. I will lie to you. So I will let you know if you message me on my Instagram. If you need to find any on my social media, always on my website, iamcladi.com. If you scroll down, you can find, besides a ton of free resources, you can find here all my links. So you can hit me up on social media and we can say hello. And also, if you do wish to have some periodic update with some maybe templates, mockup, whatever, whenever I have time. Again, as you can see here, it says Kladi doesn't spam. I don't spam because I barely actually send my newsletter. Is once a month, once every 2 months. But if you put your email address here, you receive, I think right away there is a gift. You left the password to access the gift, which are a full set template. Let's see if we see it here. Carol, if you don't do messages, I can see in the chat. Maybe here on Behance. Yeah, I just need a little reminder. So actually, let me see. I can write myself a note and I'll send it to you over Behance if that helps. See, I hope that I remember. Otherwise, try to send me an email or hit me up here on, or perhaps Discord. I'm always on Discord. And since we're talking about Discord, it's important to share with you what's going on today during the day. So make sure to go. No, don't have to go anywhere. I have to go somewhere. I have to go into the schedule. Let me check it out. Here it is. So you don't just to stay here. You don't have to go anywhere because that's the beautiful schedule, a beautiful day filled with creativity at Adobe Live. As I say, this is the amazing community where you can find so many fantastic creative, starting of course with yours truly with this vector illustration stream warm up in the morning if you are in the States, or afternoon if you are in Europe, or if you're on the other side of the world, it's probably evening. Actually, let me know in the chat. I'm always very curious to see where everyone is from. And then we'll follow with Jesus Ramirez with Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge, and then drawing and painting with Anne Shen. And Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that during the stream with Anne, you'll be able to review your portfolio. Hi, Tunk, nice to see you. Thank you for showing up today as well. It's always a pleasure to see you here. And followed by Andrea with Illustrator Daily Creative Challenge at 11:30 Pacific time. And then we're gonna have Adobe XD workflows and pro tips with Alexis Bustos, and I believe more portfolio review there. So stay tuned if you want your Behance portfolio to be reviewed live by our lovely professional, expert, beautiful streamers. And Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge with our Pinsky 2 p.m. followed by the beautiful Alice Lee with the Doodle Therapy. So I filled. Oh, look at this. Laura has probably been checking out my website. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Here we go. That's the beauty of the community. And when I was talking about community, the reason why I kind of remember, thankfully, to share with you the schedule is because I want... No, Sean, welcome in. We're just chilling, I like to chat and introduce and share with everyone what's going on here. I want to... share with you a place where you can communicate with me. So you go my Instagram, if you go to my website, you have many ways to get in touch with me, but a way where you can, perhaps if you're watching the other stream, especially if you're tuning in with the daily creative challenges, we have our fantastic community, which is Discord. And let me show it to you here real quick. I wasn't prepared, so it's loading. Should be able to be there on my screen. Here it is. So you'll be able to send me messages here, either on the Adobe Illustrator or on the Photoshop Discord, that if you stick around for the Daily Creative Challenges, both Jesus and Andrew will share with you. So I'm always there as a mentor. If you do any question, Carol, perhaps you can give me a shout there. I'm always more than happy to help. So I hope that everyone has started. I'm just gonna repeat it one more time for those of you who are just entering right now the stream. You can follow along from what we started yesterday by heading into my website here and go into imkladi.com/resources, clicking on get starter. It was supposed to be starter file or get started, but I always like to make new words, so get starter files are there for you, and you'll find in the folder the vector memory Illustrator file. Hi Ikem, thank you so much for joining us. Hi Sean. Fantastic. Sean will be using Capture to find some text, but I can see that you're helping each other. I love it. That's very, very beautiful. Fantastic. So yes, Laura's been inspecting my website. I hope everything is nice and neat. But let's get started. So I hope that you have found here the file, vector memory, and you can open in Illustrator so we can keep going and learning some new techniques while we chill and relax and work in Illustrator. So as I mentioned, I changed a little bit the color palette because I've been listening to a little bit of music, as you probably seen when I was yesterday before my stream. I actually recorded myself and put it on my Instagram, which reminds me to tell you, during like perhaps the last 3 minutes of this stream, I'm gonna go ahead in on my Instagram, which is I am Kladi, at I am Kladi, so instagram.com at I am Kladi, and I'm gonna see if anyone has shared any work in order to post it. So if you create any work, you can then tag me and I'll see and I'll share them, because you guys are blowing my mind. And for whatever reason, I know that I always try to promise a lot of things, but time goes very, very fast. So if for whatever reason I don't do it here during the stream, I will review your work if you tag me on my Instagram handle. I should have it open here, but I'm sure that team can help us with the link, or otherwise, again, you can just go on my website, scroll down, and at the bottom you'll find all my social media links. So it's iamkladi.com, that's me dancing, but I also seen some amazing work. Let's see if I can share some of you here. I absolutely love Daniel, what he was doing yesterday. Fantastic work. Jay, Chicago, beautiful work. So I'm more than happy to support you and share it, but of course give you some feedback. So maybe we can do it here live, or I can do it afterwards. Just make sure that tag me so I can read it there. But let's get started. Hope everyone has downloaded the file. If you do have any question, make sure that you head on behance.net/live so I can actually see your question and reply live. See, all of you are geeking out in web. That's fantastic. Love it. Right, let's get started. So as you can see, for those of you who join us today, we were building different layers, and I'm going to zoom in for you to have a look. So we have our palette layers, elements, work in progress, foreground, midground, background, and the original photo. And we are building, reconstructing some of my memories. This is a photo that I took during my holiday last year, and we are recreating our memories in Illustrator using shapes and lines, and we're really trying to figure it out. And that's the beauty. That's why I get lost and get stuck in this sort of illustration, because I love to see how to find and solve the problem. So the best workflow, I don't think that anyone has got the perfect recipe. I think is the best way to work is to try to think and always solve the problem. Which shape is the closest one? What is gonna make me achieve the output faster? And Illustrator offers us a beautiful range of opportunities. So I'm gonna show you also how to recolor and change the color, because as I said, we want to start to work with a selected palette just to make it the work more consistent and look a little bit better as a composition. We're gonna work with a restricted color palette, but we don't want to be too sentimental to attach to it. So we're gonna see how to change it both in Illustrator and Photoshop. So let's keep going. At the moment, we are missing all the details. So I'm gonna go ahead. Yesterday, we left our lovely boat here, so perhaps I will finish off by creating more leaves. So we need a plant here to fill, and then we can start to create our lines to give a little bit of a texture. So I'm gonna start by locking our different layers. As you can see, we have the background, we have the midground, and we have the foreground, and I always have a work in progress here where I start to build the element. And actually, let's start for the work in progress. Once you start working, things can get messy. So what I advise to do is to create this work in progress layer. If you don't have one and you're working on your own file, make sure to click on this little plus here at the bottom of your layer panel where it says create new layer, and then go ahead and click on your artboards and click and drag to create a new artboard. which is going to be the artboard that contains your work in progress. Now, you don't have to do so. I just think that it helps to keep all the elements that you do, especially because when you start to create this sort of illustration, repetition is always a nice thing to achieve in order to create consistency in your artwork. And therefore, I'm just going to delete this one here. And so I try to split all my different elements in different parts, and I'm gonna bring it along so into different artboards, so I can keep going there and copy them and reuse them throughout my illustration. But at the same time, it looks a little bit neat here, so I don't have anything that hangs out of the mood board. You don't have to have it, of course, on an artboard. That's my personal choice. But you know, even if you have it without an artboard, but you kind of like look it together, to me, just kind of help to have a little bit of a better view. I can see Julia, thank you so much for joining me. And I can see Dorina Boneva, hello. Jürgen, nice to see you. Did everyone tell me where you guys are from? I want to know. I want to know where you are streaming from. You learn Illustrator skills from me. I want to learn more about you as well. So let me know where you are streaming from. I can see Tingbajim Jam from India. I hope that I pronounced her name right. Otherwise, I apologize. You guys know me. I create new words. I make up names. So it's always very fantastic to see people from all over the world. So far we have UK, we have India. Let me know. I want to know where you are connecting from. So fantastic. Team lives in the internet. It lives there. Yeah, I assume so, Team. You are always there. We need to give like a big clap to Team that is always there, helping me, helping all the streamer, helping us. Perfect. We got Michael from Nashville. We have Steve from New Zealand, Kristen from North Carolina. And Team, Sean says, Team, you are the internet. I completely agree. Laura from Copenhagen, that's fantastic. I actually spent some time in Copenhagen. A real dear friend of mine was living there for during university, and I have a few tattoos, and one of the tattoo that I have just on my back, it says, oh my gosh, now I'm gonna pronounce it wrong for sure, but Liva Lykkelig Liv, I believe, is on my back, so I don't read it very often. But I had it done, and it's of course in Danish, Carol, as you probably will know, and I'm sure you'll pronounce it better. But it's a tattoo that I had done when I was in Copenhagen. Beautiful, beautiful place. Georgia from Birmingham, Ricardo from Portugal, Tonk, you're from Istanbul. That's fantastic. I always wanted to visit. And we have Swedi from Thailand. That's fantastic. I love it. I want to come and visit all of you. Can you please like host me at some point when you'll be able to travel again? Fantastic. We have pretty much all over the world. Steve, New Zealand. Amazing, amazing. Really, really amazing to get to know more about you. But let's get our hands dirty in vector. Let's get started. So as I said, I want to create some more leaves here, and as you can see, I kind of have abandoned now my background because I really kind of want to move on. I like to use the perspective and have an inspiration from the element, but then I kind of transfer my memories into my fantastic world. Isn't that what happened anyway in reality? Like our memory fades and gets a little bit mixed up with our fantasies. So yesterday I showed you how to access inspiration photo from Adobe Stock from the website, which is stock.adobe.com, and as you can see, that's where I synced my little sailing boat from, simply by clicking here on save to library. But there is another way to sync your photos and search for your photo without leaving Illustrator. You can head to your libraries panel. If you cannot find it, make sure to go under Window, Libraries, and here the first thing that you'll have is a little search bar which says Search, Libraries, and Adobe Stock. So I'm going to search for plants to have a little bit of an inspiration here, and as you can see, we have already a preview of amazing, beautiful plants, so you can perhaps have a look at anything that you might want to use as an inspiration. This one looks like a pretty cool photo, I guess, inspiration. I'm gonna double click because I want to see it a little bit bigger, so it's gonna give me an idea. I guess it's a vector. I couldn't really tell what it was. It looks pretty cool. So all we have to do here is to save it to library, making sure that it saves on the right library. As you can see, save to a library called Artwork Mockup is not the one that I want. We're working on a library called Vector Art. Make sure that you use your right library, so when you go back in Illustrator, you can make sure that it's there. And if you go into our library here, we'll be able to find it. But let me just try this. I never tried it before. I guess you can, yeah, you can simply, that's fantastic. I absolutely love this Adobe stock integration. I'm learning while I'm sharing with you. So all you have to do, you have to click and drag, and you'll be able to work with the preview. Now remember, this is a preview with watermark, so we're just using it here like so because it's simply an inspiration. Otherwise, if you wish to use it, especially if those are vector and you want to integrate them, make sure that you click on the little card in order to license the vector here. But that's fantastic. I didn't know you can just drag and drop it. That's super useful. Thank you so much, Adobe Stock and Adobe Illustrator, for making it so easy for us. So here I'm just gonna have it as an inspiration. I strongly advise you to just use it as a reference, because when you're drawing with shapes and vector, is really like your own take to the illustration. So it's always nice to make sure that you keep going building your style. And sometimes when you bring in other people's stuff, try to modify and try to put your own input. Of course, if you're working with time restriction, you do what you gotta do, you use the other work. But if you really want to refine and pay attention to details, make sure to add your touch to it, because it will feel better. Otherwise, you can see some elements sticking out. It happens very often. You can tell when something is being stick out. I can see Julia saying greetings from Italy. Hello, Julia. Oh, I think I know you are. And I send it because I can see Joe and Carlo. We love you, miss you. Oh, love you, miss you so much as well. Thank you so much for being here with me. That's so nice. So nice to see many lovely people sharing love here in the chat. It's my pleasure to be here with you. So I want to say ciao Carlo, ciao Joe, and everyone from Italy. It's always nice that we can learn some Italian. Also, we got Steve here. They can interact in Italian. That's fantastic. Right. So I'm just going to have a look at these plants and pick one of those. I'm kind of liking these almost like heart-shaped leaves. Let's see how to do them. So they look kind of rounded at the end. So in order to create my own, I'll probably start using my ellipse tool, which you can find on your toolbar by clicking and holding on the rectangle tool. You'll be revealed the ellipse tool, or as you can see, there is a little L here, and I'm going to zoom in so you can see it, which is the shortcut. So everything that you can see in parentheses is actually the shortcut. So I'm going to click and drag by holding shift if I want to constrain proportion, or without holding shift if I don't mind and I just want an ellipse. I don't want a perfect circle. In this case, I'm going to work with the circle, so hold shift, and here it is. Then once I've done with my circle, I want to click and move it around, and I really want to achieve that sort of like drop shape. I can see Ryan say ciao. And I'm gonna go ahead and click on the very top. In order to create our point, we're gonna work with this little handle here, and I'm gonna go ahead and press P to trigger my pen tool, and by clicking on V, we'll be able to create a corner. That's how easy it is. So I'm gonna Command Z and redo just real quick the pen tool. I'm gonna zoom in. This is the normal pen tool. When you have the asterisk, you can create a point. When you have a little plus, means that you're adding an anchor point to a path. When we hover over an existing anchor point, it transforms into a little minus, because we can subtract that point from the path without breaking it. And I'm just gonna show you just like so. But if we hold Alt for Windows option on the Mac, it transforms into a little pointy corner, and by clicking in your anchor point, it will give us a pointy corner. So it's very easy to do. Here I'm gonna go ahead and add some more anchor points. I'm gonna add one at the right and one at the left. Oops, making sure that we see the little plus, so it means that we are actually adding it on the path. And I'm gonna hold the shift and click our top arrow, so I can give it a little bit more of a like shape from when the leaves come together from the stem. And here it is. That's my beautiful leaves. So I think that I can shrink it down by Alt Shift in order to constrain proportion and see what happened here. So it looks like this little cut that I've created is a little bit small. What we can do is perhaps just open it by moving around the left and the right point. Here it is. Make sure that you click on A to access your direct selection tool, which is our white arrow, and we can just open it up a bit. So when we make it small, because the leaves is going to be quite tiny, we make sure that we do see the space. Now you don't need to have the space, you can just leave it as it was. Alt Shift again and make it smaller. And I'm gonna go ahead and press eyedropper in order to lift the appearance from the other leaves, so it's nice and consistent with everything else. Now I'm gonna click on Option and create a copy, and then I'm gonna press on D to create a few more copies so we can start modify them. And that's the reason why I like to work with a work in progress artboard, so I can start using and repeating and saving at the same time the object that I work with, because we're going to jump into our knife tool. If you haven't used the knife tool before, is nested under your eraser tool. Let me know in the chat if you used the eraser tool before, because we're going to jump into it in a second. I haven't used it very often. I started to use it quite recently, so let me know if you used it before. Hi Jacob, thank you so much for joining me. Nice to see you here. So let's go ahead and click on the knife tool, and I'm going to go ahead and cut this little leaf in order to give us a little bit of a shade. Let me see what kind of color I used for my plant. I've used here the white. I think I want to start and use the yellow though. So I'm going to press I, and in this case I'm going to steal the yellow from the boat, or you can access the color from your swatch panel. And this is my first leaf, so I'm going to go ahead and move to the other one and use my knife tool and click. And this is just to give it like a little bit of a variation, because as we've seen from our photo, the leaves were a little bit burned and there's a little bit of a shadow. We're keeping it simple, so I'm using the knife tool to cut my path and my shape into separate different shapes. And let me see here what happens. So you need to double click because they will be grouped. So I like to keep it grouped, so I'm just going to double click to access one of the group. And I'm just gonna perhaps do a little more. I always like to create as much as possible, especially when I'm working with nature, as many as possible in terms of shape and different shape, because nature in reality is always so different, and you know, it's very hard to find a leaf that is exactly the same to the other one. I actually think that is pretty much impossible. So I like to create as many leaves as I can. So this is one technique to create leaves. I'm just gonna make my last one here, and in this case I'm gonna create the bottom part yellow. Oops, let me double click to get the second one. Yes, Jaco, we did use the knife tool for the first time during the DCC. And did you use it any other time? So let me know. Team, I didn't see before if you were there, but are we gonna do portfolio review? Well, not me, but is that portfolio review coming up today? Let us know, because I told everyone that is there that there is gonna be a portfolio review, so I just want to make sure that I'm saying the right thing. So perfect. We've done this lovely first leaf, and I'm gonna go ahead and create another leaves. In this case, I'm gonna always start by using the circle. Maybe in this time I'm not gonna Alt Shift to create a different shape, and I'm gonna go ahead and give it a little bit, so all I've done, just to recap real quick, I went to my ellipse tool, drag to create an ellipse without holding Shift because I didn't want a perfect circle, and I click on A to select my direct selection tool and clicked on only one of these lovely corner, and all I'm doing is just like dragging it up. So I just want to have this little bit of a shape here. And also, you know, when you have all these beautiful branches moving around, what I tend to do in order to create a more beautiful shape and as a guide, I almost use like a wireframe with my pen tool. All I do is to create a line like we did yesterday, press ESC to break the path, go into a curvature tool and click in the middle in order to create the curve. And in this case, the green is appearing because we do have a fill. If we do not want a fill, just simply head here to our swatches panel. And there it is. Sorry, I zoomed out. So all we have to do here, I wanted to actually zoom in, had our lovely swatches here that is green. All we have to do is click to this white square. Oops, let me jump on the other side so you can see what I'm doing here. And where there is the little white square with the red line, boom, and we're just gonna have the line. So the only reason, I don't worry too much about that, because the only reason why I'm creating this line is because I want to be able to use my little leaf here as in a path. So I'm gonna click and select with my black arrows that you can trigger with the letter V, and go ahead and hold it and shift it here by pressing Option or Alt for Windows, and I'm gonna press Command Shift and the right curly bracket to bring it on top. And I'm gonna go ahead and do that over and over again. So I'm creating more of this little egg-shaped leaf, and all I have to do is to move it and perhaps just like turn it in order to see here the in order to be able to rotate it. All you have to do is to select on it and hover it in one of the corner, and you'll have this lovely double-sided arrow that allows you to create the rotation. So you can start and create these lovely leaves here. And again, doesn't have to be perfect. Nature is everything but, and that's the exact beauty of it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and create more. So I use pretty much the line as a vector. We're not gonna use it at the end. It's just a guide for us to follow this lovely shape. And then I'm probably gonna do one more, and then I'm gonna go ahead and select all of those leaves, Alt Shift and click on the path to make sure that I deselect it, and I press Control and Transform and Reflect in order to create a copy. Make sure that you don't press OK, and press on Preview to see if that's what we want to do, if you want an horizontal copy or if we want a vertical one. So of course we want to duplicate it vertically because we just wanted to flip it on the other side, and instead of pressing OK, we want to press copy. Alberto, what's up? So glad that you finally decided to join me, man. I'm just joking. So happy to see you. I joke with Alberto because we chat a lot on Instagram, and I was like telling him off. I was like, man, I miss you. I don't see you on during my stream. So as you can see, I created a copy here, and all I have to do is to start and drag them around next to my shape. And the only reason why I'm doing this is in order to work a little bit faster. So I already create a copy. Here it is. And then I'm just gonna keep rotating them so they fit the shape of my leaf. And this is gonna come nice and handy. I'm just gonna put one more. I think there is a succulent that looks like that. It's got all these beautiful, lovely, juicy leaves. And once you're ready, again, select, click and drag to select everything with the selector tool. And I love the way that I'm like drawing in the air. I'm probably gonna have to like try one of those virtual reality things. I'm just gonna jump back on the other side of the screen so we can use our panel a little bit better. And I'm gonna go ahead and hold Shift and click on the little stem in order to deselect it. Click on Option and drag out to make a copy. Now I'm just gonna go ahead and move those little leaves here so it doesn't get too messy. And once I've created a copy, I'm gonna go ahead and select and create another copy by holding Shift. And look what I'm gonna do here. I'm just gonna get rid of the top part. Perhaps maybe I'm just gonna deselect a little bit more. And I'm gonna start to mix and match and add this top here. And perhaps I'm gonna grab some other of those. So I'm just creating a different leaf simply by using exactly what I have. So still time saving, but at the same time, they won't look the same because we are still allowing a little bit of variety. So you're still using the same leaves, but at the same time, we are creating a little bit of movement. What's up, Alberto? Nice to see you. How's it going? Nice to see you here. Alberto, where are you from? I think we spoke so much also on Instagram, and I don't know where you are typing from. Or probably if you did tell me, I forget, I apologize. Today we're talking about bad memories and how we can distort our memories, and that's what we're doing with our illustration here. So as you can see, I've created some of this little leaf, and I'm gonna go ahead and select some of those, hold on I, in order to get our eyedropper tool and get some of this lovely leaf in yellow. Very random, very random. It's your fantasy, dream, reality, memory mixed up, so completely up to you. And I'm gonna click and drag and click on Command D to group them. Also, you can go under, I believe, object and group in order to group elements together. Now, once you're ready, I'm gonna click on option and drag. And as you can see, I always create copies because I really enjoy to have multiple versions so I can reuse them. As you can see, once I drag them up, I hold shift it to make sure that I constrain the proportion, since I was quite happy with the leaves. This look like a very big plant here. I'm gonna move it a little bit to give again a little bit of movement over there, and I want to make sure that I check the size of my stroke as so is consistent with everything else. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on my layers. My foreground layers is where I have this plant. I'm gonna go ahead into properties, and we have a stroke of 2. And same here, the stroke is 3. So I believe that everything else, so really want to try to work in a very consistent way. So perhaps what we're going to do at the end is to select everything and make sure that everything is 2. So I think that the only one that is 3 is this plant over here. So make sure to go ahead on properties, and once you have your artwork selected, you can go here under stroke. I'm just going to show it up here to you. There it is. And we bring it back to 2 points. Now I want to make sure that this is also 2 points. Now I want to show you something, and it's actually this transform panel over here. During the Daily Creative Challenge, we have done, so Alberto is originally from Peru, but living in US. So you need to break it down for me because I'm Italian. As you can read from my little cord here, I'm made in Italy and live in UK, so I still working on my geography. But you are in the US right now and originally from Peru. Oh, Miami. Thank you, Carol. And we have Maud from Lebanon. Thank you so much for joining us. So how do you move the whole group at one time? Very simple, Clarissa. So I'm gonna work with this one because it's ungrouped. I'm gonna click and drag to select it all. Now this one is selected. I don't want to alt shift deselected. I think I picked up something else. It does happen, don't worry. Alt shift and click on the things that you don't want. So for example, the stem here, and then I'm gonna click on Command G to group it, and it just moves completely together. And you can also press on option for Mac and alt for Windows to drag it together. Now for those two, simply what I've done is holding shift and selected the 2 different groups. So they're still ungrouped, but I hold shift, and that's how I moved it together. And that's how you can also transform it together. So once we're done over here, again, I was about to teach you a little trick, show you more than teach you. I was about to show you and share with you a little trick here, which is with our transform panel. So once we select the transform panel, so when we select the artwork and we go into our transform panel, and for whatever reason you don't have it there, make sure that you go under window and transform in order to bring it up into your workspace. If you have more questions regarding the workspace, make sure to go ahead and go and watch yesterday's stream, because we talked about how to fix our workspace and to make it nice and neat and create your own that you can reset at any time. So what you want to do is to make sure that you click on scale corners if you want the corners to scale with your art so they don't look all awkward. And something else that you want to keep in mind is also perhaps to click on scale, strokes, and effect. I don't want that because I want to work with a consistent stroke here. Let me show what happens. So if I tick on scale, stroke, and effects, when I do scale my artwork, my path also will shrink with the artwork. So in this case, as you can see here from our properties, is not 0.95. 5 instead of 2. And this come very, very handy, especially when you are working with typefaces or that have stroke. So when you make a smaller path, it doesn't get ugly. But in this case, we're going to keep it unticked, and I'm going to undo because that's just a simple trick that I really wanted to share with you guys. So remember, transform, and here scale, stroke, and effects, and that also work with patterns. So if you do have a pattern applied, you'll be able to scale it when you transform your object. It's not the case today. We want to make sure that that's unticked. The only thing that we want to scale is our corners, and perhaps I can show you real quick again how did we produce the cloud yesterday. So we went into our rectangle tool very fast here. I'm gonna create a rectangle and hold shift and again, and then press Command D in order to create a duplicate. Maybe I've done one too many, but it doesn't really matter, just a demonstration here. I'm just gonna move my shapes around. I'm gonna make some longer, some a little bit shorter. Again, it doesn't really matter. This is gonna be the side of your cloud. Perhaps I'm gonna make a little hole here, because clouds are not perfect, as everything in nature, as us, as me, definitely not perfect. And here it is. So this is a big cloud, but once it's ready, I'm gonna select, click, and drag over the cloud and go into our properties to make sure that we find our Pathfinder tool, and we click on Unite. You can also access your Pathfinder tool by going under Window and Pathfinder over here, and it has so many lovely options. Now, if we click on A in order to have our direct selection tool, we can drag to create our corner here. Oops. Here it is. So once we, perhaps they were a little bit too big, let me do Command Z in order to undo my little rectangle. I think my rectangle were way too big over here. Let me make it a little bit smaller. And then, yeah, that should work a little bit better. It should give us some nicer corner over here. Here it is. Oh, it looks like it's selecting only a few of them. But anyway, what I really wanted to show you is that we can create as the scale the corner. So I'm just gonna go ahead and select it here, and look what happened if I do not untick scale corners. When I scale my cloud, the corners are gonna become way bigger and way weirder. But if I do click on scale corners, it's gonna keep exactly, look at that, it's gonna make it much easier to work. So scale corners when you transform, or scale stroke and effect if you're working with patterns. Anyway, I've done a much better job yesterday with my cloud, so here it is much nicer in the shape. I should have used that one straight away, but again, if you want to learn more on how to use it very quick is Pathfinder rectangle, and then use your lovely corners here. But we've done with plants. We just missed one more, and we're going to use those lovely leaves here by clicking and dragging to select them all, hold an option to create a copy. I'm going to move here on the plant, and I'm going to start to arrange them as you please. I kind of like the idea of like leaf hanging out here, and I'm going to click on shift to make sure that I keep that proportion of my little leaf consistent. So I'm just gonna make these lovely little leaves here. I don't know if you guys, I don't know if the microphone pick up my stomach, but looks like someone is hungry here. What time is it where you guys are from? It's about 4 in the afternoon here, and I've been doing some lovely work. So next job for me is to get some food. So here it is. I've created some of these leaves. Of course, make sure that you lock your layers. Don't be messy like Kladi. Make sure that you lock your layers, so when you work, and that was the beauty of creating different layers here, we're not gonna mess up our work that we created before. Here it is. So now you can create as many copies as you want by holding shift. I would strongly suggest to perhaps create different leaves now, because we are, as you know, on a time frame, and time always runs fast, and we're going to jump in animation really soon. We have about 40 minutes left, I believe. Steve, it's 3 a.m. I'm like speechless. I had like 3 seconds of like, I didn't get stuck. I was just speechless. 3 a.m. Steve, that's fantastic. That's commitment. Jacob is 11:15 a.m. So I guess you all are on the East Coast, if that's correct. You learn how bad I am in geography during these streams. But anyway, once we're done here with our leaves, again, I encourage you to create more, and again, try to do as many different leaves as you can. In order to fill that space, we can just use some strokes, and we're going to create some more curves with that lovely pen tool here. 5:15 p.m. France. Okay, so not that different from here, from the UK. Steve, you're a little bit nutty. All creatives are nutty. Who's not nutty? I think that the only person that think that they're not nutty, they're the real nutty ones. That's my idea. And also, if you wanna have, if you wanna feel like less nutty, you can always go on my Instagram and see how nutty I am. So I'll definitely feel better about yourself. So all I've done here is went into my little segment tool, which you can also trigger by clicking the slash here on your keyboard, and by holding shift we create a straight line, and then we go ahead into our curvature pen tool to create some beautiful curves. Now yesterday we just created one curve, but you can add as many points as you want, and I usually try to do something that is a little bit more of like a movement by adding one point that goes up, one point that goes down, and so on. So really having fun here. And again, I'm gonna make this a little bit smaller, probably something like that, and I'm gonna click and drag in order to create a new segment here. And again, going to my curvature tool, zoom in, and I'm gonna create a little bit less movement here, just so it doesn't become confusing. Here it is. And let's see how this two works, and then we can always come back and create more. So I'm gonna actually select both of those, press Command C and delete, because I wanna put them into my midground. I'm gonna press Command F to paste it in place, so they go behind my leaves. Now my leaves are still in the work in progress. Make sure that they will be on our foreground so we don't get messy. So again, Command C, Command X, we're copying, cutting, going to your foreground layer here, and Command F to paste in place. So we are keeping everything organized. I believe we have to do the same with those. Command C, Command X, and Command F to paste it in the foreground. So in order to have the layers organized, you do have to spend an extra moment, but that will be such a time saver in the future. So make sure that you keep those lovely layers organized, because it's a little bit of an effort to start with, but it will improve your workflow so much. Chinese food then, for who? For me. I don't know if you can see here my stomach, let me know. But let me see, there are more question in the chat. Let me see here. I'm just gonna scroll up because I've seen the chat. Angie saying that she managed to listen to me while doing her work, but is watching now. Amazing, Angie. And don't forget, you can jump straight into the artwork. If you go onto my website, you have the resources there, and I already updated the artwork, the Illustrator file, so you can just jump in and work at any time. So Steve, I think you guys are talking about food. My stomach is going even more crazier. I can see Narshima running here, and Jacob, yes, from the East Coast. Michelle's going to the kitchen and make dinner. Oh, you can always bring your laptop with you. I wish I was there eating some food as well, as you can probably hear from my stomach. Couscous tonight, yo, making me so angry. I don't even know how to say it. And by the way, I don't mean that I'm mad. I just want food. Okay, so we created our line. We organized our layer. We'll be nice and organized here. Just zoom in and bring our layer here. And as you can see, there is some fill in one of our stroke. Just simply go ahead and click into none, which is the little white square with the red slash on top in order to make sure that there is no fill, and we can go ahead and place those little lines and adjust them the way we prefer. If we want, you can always click into your direct selection tool, which is your white arrow, and click and hold shift to select multiple point of your lines and perhaps start to move this line around. Now the beauty of the layer, as you can see here, if you want to go ahead and click one of those lines without affecting the foreground where we had our leaves, all we have to do is to go and toggle the lock in your layer, which is the one next to the little eye. So now that we're going to be selecting the lines, our leaves are not going to be affected. And that's the reason why I say it's always useful to spend time, even if it takes a second for you to, you know, make a copy and delete and make sure that you're in the right place. Do so, because it will help you so much when the layers start building, when your artwork start building. It helps so much to have more layer that you can rely on. Just gonna go ahead and perhaps create another little bit of a movement here, and again, those are just simply to fill the space where we have our leaves. And perhaps what I will do is now lock my midground, go back into my foreground, and it has a little bit more of sense now to move the leaves where we have our little strokes. Here it is. Perfect. Again, as I said, this is nothing but perfect, but this is completely up to you. I want to jump. I really have to jump into Photoshop straight away. So feel free to keep going and create more leaves. I can see more food. I can see more food in the chat. So I better stay away from it. I'm not going to read it now. Just joking. But yeah, no, feel free to ask your question. I'm always here available. Now, how do we recolor our artwork? I'm just going to place a copy of our little boat here. And very, very fast, I'm going to create some stroke. I promised that I was going to do that. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to use my line segment tool and start from some of our corner by holding shift to create some straight line, and then by pressing first pressing V to jump from our segment tool to our selection tool. We hold option and we drag to create one copy of the line, and then Command D to copy. If by any chance you moved a little bit left to right, you can always select your lines. And again, as you can see, I'm working on the work in progress, because I can always lock my foreground and then click and drag to select them all without affecting any other layers. Let's throw some food for Kladi. Yes, edible, please. And you can always go into our align panel and make sure that we align it to selection and click left align in this case. So we have all our line at the same, starting from the same point. Then we're going to jump into our eraser tool, and I'm going to go ahead and simply drag here to split our line. And I love to do that because it allows us to create like almost a little textures. So I usually tend to do a smaller bit where the lines begin and of course where it ends. And I'm going to keep going like so. And then you can also delete. So for example, when I move forward, I create a little bit of movement. So once you perhaps split this little bit here, you can also completely erase it all. So we can start and like keep moving like that. And you get the gist. So I'm just gonna keep doing that. And again, because of I really want to show you the animation part now, I'm just gonna leave it like that. But again, feel free to surprise me with yours and create some amazing lines. I'll show you my final as well, where I took a little bit more of time to do it, so you can have an idea. Now I'm gonna press Command G to create a group. And again, here we can duplicate those by holding option and drag it down. And here it is. Sometimes what I do is kind of like revert it. So I hold shift to make a rotation. Hi Sam, nice to see you. Nice to have you here. And I'm gonna go ahead and bring them into my foreground. So I'm gonna go back and select all the line, press Command C, and delete them from the work in progress. Or perhaps instead of delete them, I'm just gonna create a copy and drag it into my lovely work in progress artboard. And those here, I'm gonna create a copy by selecting them, holding shift and clicking on the two group, pressing Command C and going in our lovely foreground. Make sure that we click Command G to group and click Command C copy, Command X to cut, go in the foreground and press Command F to paste in place. And of course we're going to select our leaf and click Command Shift right curly bracket to bring it on top. Perfect. Now something that I want to show you real quick with our line is how to adapt those lines perhaps to the base, because we want to give it a little bit of that curvature. As much as we are designing a flat artwork, we still want to give it a little bit of shape into it. So I'm going to go ahead and grab one of the block from our work in progress, and I'm going to zoom in here to make sure that I create the right selection, and I'm going to put it over the vase. So I'm going to go ahead and click on object and compound path and make, in order to create one single path out of all these lines. So they will have the same behavior. And we're doing that because we are looking to wrap them around. How do we do that? Simply by going under object, making sure that your path is now selected. So remember, object, path, make, in order to create your compound path. And then we're going to go into envelope, distort, and use make with warp. This will allow us to, if you click preview, you're going to see it straight away, warp around. And again, this is exactly the case. We talked about it in Photoshop when we were doing the mockups. To find the better option that is there for you, you can always modify it, but in this case I think that either arc upper or normal arc will do. This is definitely too much, so perhaps something like that seems to be working. I'm just going to move the panel around so I can have a better look, and also you can have more of a distortion horizontally, maybe something like this. I think that something like that work. All we have to do perhaps is rotate it. Let me know your thoughts. I think I'm going to go with this one here, and once you're happy with it, press OK, and then you can always rotate the group over here, and it just kind of like gives the idea that the vase has this round shape. Once you are done with it, now as you can see, this became a full object. So we can, if you want, you can go ahead and modify it. Or what I like to do is to go into object and expand, and this will allow us to go back into our stroke. So once we expand it, we can select both the vase and our stroke, the group of stroke, and head on our pathfinder, shape builder, which is here. I'm going to zoom in our toolbar on the left, and by clicking on option or alt for Windows, we'll be able to delete all these paths that we don't want that fall outside. And as you can see, it's very cool. I'm working with a trackpad now on my MacBook, so it's a little bit like less handy, but if you're working perhaps with a pen or even if with a simple mouse, it's so easy. Boom, here it is. What do you guys think? I think it looks pretty nice. All we're gonna do now is to press Command C, Command X to delete, and we're gonna place it, you guessed it, on the foreground on the right layer. So I think we are done here. I don't like when we have stroke to stroke like that, especially when we're different element. Again, completely artistic choice, up to you. But I just kind of like move it because I'm a big fan that, like, if you go for it, just go bold or go home. I don't like this thing where you don't know, like, is it the same shape? It's not. I like when people don't make me think, you know. Keep it easy and try to make it so he has a little bit more definition. But aside any jokes, I always try to make sure that my illustrations are clear, especially when we're working with very simple shape. We want to really achieve clarity. Sanish, I killed your boredom, yay! And hopefully I go like 20 minutes, so hopefully now we're gonna get even more inspired because we're gonna jump in Photoshop. So first thing I'm gonna do, as I said, don't be precious with your color palette. Is amazing what you can achieve by being and staying flexible. So I'm going to show you first thing that we're going to do here. So I'm going to click in our artboard tool, and I'm going to hold option, click in the middle of our artboard, and drag. And as you can see, we created a copy. It's telling us that a hidden or locked object will not be moved. So what we have to do is press Command Z and go ahead and make sure that we unlock the background and all the other elements that we want to move here. So click on Option and drag to create a new artboard. It's telling us that, again, things that are going to be locked are not going to be moved, but we made sure that we unlock all the layers that we need. And all we have to do is to go ahead and select all this beautiful art and press and go into Edit and Edit Colors and Recolor Artwork. Look what happens here. So you have different options. You can either create a different color palette that is already there available for you, and if you missed it yesterday, I'm going to show you again how to do it. So already have some here. So all you have to do is simply to click in the new color palette that you've created in order to change the color. Or if we cancel that, we go back into Edit Colors, Recolor Artwork. We can go into this other option here. Edit, sorry. So the one that we're working is Assign. I'm just gonna zoom in so you can also see it. My workspace is quite small when I share my screen. So Assign is the one where you can actually assign any color you want. So for example, red, so or pink, whatever color it is, everything that is green is now pink. So you can literally assign each single color to a different color or to a completely different color palette. Or even more amazing, I'm just gonna go back and give it the same color here. And again, you can also swap. So for example, you really like the green that you have for the sea and you want them for the leaves. All you have to do is to click on it and drag it over, and here it is. And then if you don't want, just click it back. Super amazing. Or you can go under Edit. With Edit, we have here the global colors, and there are two different ways to approach the colors. You can either go in linking the harmony, so you save the color distribution that you had and you can just change the hue. So let's see what happens here. Isn't that super fun? Like, I love it. I would like do that all day. Or you can unlink it and then you can just move one color at a time, just like so. And there are so many amazing options here in order to refine your color. Of course, you can just work on the saturation, so you can keep the same color and have it much more saturated, or on the brightness, which is how dark something is. Here it is, how dark or how bright something is. Perfect. So I'm gonna hit on cancel because I want to show you, I want to start to work in Photoshop, and I'm gonna pick it up here from how to switch the colors. So first of all, I'm gonna go ahead and save by pressing Command S to save this file, but also I'm gonna go ahead and export our artboard by pressing Option Command E, and I'm just gonna select my artboard number 1, and I'm gonna make sure that I include only number 1 here into the range, and I'm gonna create a JPEG in this case, and I'm gonna give it a prefix, which is a little bit of a name, and I'm gonna call it color, because we're gonna make different artboard in a second. But let's do one thing at a time. Click on export, and here it is. And I can't believe at the time, I just have to move so fast. Go ahead and open the file that I provided for you, which is the story one. Let me see, I should also have it on my desktop here. Hopefully, if not, here it is, yeah. So I'm gonna go and use the Easter post that you have it there. And I'm just gonna go ahead and click on wherever you have placed your document. I saved mine on my desktop, so I'm just gonna simply go ahead and bring it over here. And once you're done, I'm gonna click return to accept the changes. And from my properties panel, let's see here, looks like I have to bring my Photoshop a little bit up so I can see my layer panel. Beautiful here. So we can access all these lovely adjustments. In particular, I'll be looking for a hue and saturation adjustment, which will allow me to change the hue of the entire work. It's fantastic, isn't it? Paco, nice to see you. Sorry, I was lost here into my design, but it's lovely seeing you here. And here it is. That's how you can change all the use of your artwork simply by moving the U little level here. I got excited because I see Puck. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. But here it is. Now let's jump quickly in creating some movement into our illustration here. And that's why your level will come so amazingly important now, because we have to split the foreground and the background to make sure that our boat goes from behind our wall in the sea. Now I'm gonna go ahead and then hide the background layers, and I'm gonna move my boat outside, and I'm gonna click on Option Command E to save, and in this case I'm going to save as a PNG because I want to retain a transparent background. And I'm going to go ahead and click on artboard number 4 because that's the one that we are working on, and I'm going to click on export artboard here. And then once I'm done, I'm going to go ahead and click on my file again, and in this case I'm going to bring the background on, and then I'm going to hide the midground and the foreground. So I just have the background here. I'm just gonna bring that down just to make sure that it's nice and neat. I'm gonna press Command Option E to export the artboard, always artboard number 4. In this case, I'm gonna call it back, and I'm gonna click on Export Artboard. Beautiful. So let's jump into our post, and I'm gonna delete those two because I don't need it right now. And also I'm going to click on Command semicolon to hide our grids for now, and I'm going to go into our Finder and click on both the back artboard and the color one to build first one, and here it is, the second one. So because we've been very organized and we work with our layer, here it is, we have our foreground and our background. Now here I have the cloud, but instead of saving again, all I can do, because maybe I want to move the cloud as well, all I have to do is to go ahead and use our selection to click and select the cloud. And again, by holding shift, we can create this other selection here. And I haven't tried this before because I've done it without the cloud, but if we go under File, Edit, with Content Aware Fill, we should be able to delete the cloud. So even if you have imported the cloud, don't worry, Photoshop is come handy to help us. So again, as you can see, it creates another layer on top to cover the cloud. So we'll be able to import in the cloud afterwards. Now I want to make sure that Photoshop is on the right size because it's looking like, here it is, full screen, perfect. So we can see all our lovely tools. And I'm going to press Command D to deselect. And then the last thing that we need here is our lovely boat and our lovely cloud, so we can make them move. So I'm going to jump back into Illustrator, select my boat, press on Command C, going on Photoshop, press on Command V, and click OK to import it as a smart object. And it's time to name our layers. So we're going to name the vector image, of course, as boat, and then color, this is the foreground. And we're gonna merge the background with the cloud. So we have the one with the cloud without. We want to stick to the one without. So Command E, select both layer by holding Shift, and then Command E to merge them. And I'm gonna call this background. Beautiful. Once we're done, perhaps the last thing that we want to import is our lovely cloud. And go back into Photoshop and click on Command V, Smart Object. Here it is. You can actually use our lovely libraries. Oh my, I'm going to show you how to use the library. So I'm just going to delete our cloud and show you how to import it with the library here. I'm just going to go ahead in my Illustrator, go back to my libraries. We were working with current library was, I believe, was called Vector Art. Here it is. So all I have to do here is to click on the cloud and drag it to my library. And as you can see, we have artwork number 1. So when we jump in Photoshop, here it is, simply click and drag to bring it in Photoshop. Amazing. So you don't even have to copy and paste it. This is the fantastic beauty of working in this environment. Now, real quick, click on video timeline. If your timeline panel is not selected, make sure to go under window and click on timeline to bring the timeline in. Click on return to accept that beautiful cloud, and let's call it cloud. Name your layers, name your layers. It's always going to be an effort that you're going to be rewarded. I always say future Kladi is always going to say thank you to present Kladi for naming the layers and working in an organized way. Perfect. So what I've done, I unticked my timeline because it was already there. So I'm going to go back and make sure that it's ticked, and I'm going to click on create timeline here. Now, many people work with the timeline at the bottom of the page. I like to work with the timeline on the side. Completely up to you. I like to see the work coming along, and I'm going to make it a little bit bigger here so we can see the actual timeline. And again, this is completely up to you. Looks like we need a little bit more space here, and we can make it a little bit smaller. So as you can see, this is basically exactly the same thing. It just allows you to zoom in into the time frame so you can work with time in a more specific way. But again, we don't have time here. I can't believe I got 10 minutes left. Can you believe it? And then I have to leave the stream to ASUS. I'm gonna, of course, going back and show you the timeline, sorry, the schedule for today. And I can see Seth. What's up, Seth? Thank you so much for joining me. Go ahead and check Seth. We're working in Photoshop. I hope that I don't make a mess, because Seth is an absolute amazing pro. He does fantastic retouching. Go and look at his portfolio. He works with fantastic clients and is a big inspiration for me. So go and check Seth out. Thank you so much for joining me, Seth. But let's get moving. So I'm gonna go ahead and start from our boat here. Yay, timeline, Alberto. So timeline is very sensitive, so you really want to watch what you select. So, and that's why it's very important to also name your file. So the first thing that I'm gonna be moving is the boat. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to move the boat in the correct location. Now, if you know a little bit about sailing, and sorry to be so specific, but usually the big part of the boat where the bigger sail is the back of the boat. So it makes sense that the boat proceeds on this way. So this is the back and this is moving forward. So I'm going to start with the first position of the boat here. It's basically coming in our lovely sea, in the scene from this side, and make sure that the boat is located under the foreground. So when we're gonna go moving, it's gonna sit behind the wall. If not, just simply click and drag in order to move your layer around. Okay, so once we have our boat selected, and you can see it here because the boat layer is also has a little bit of a thicker white stroke on the timeline, I'm going to click on position in order to record our first position. Then all I have to do is to move the timeline in time, and in this case I'm going to bring it to the very, very end, because our boat is just going to simply move here in a straight line, and I'm going to move the boat and I'm going to bring it wherever I want it to go. In this case, just here, Alt Shift to make sure that it does a straight trajectory. And as you can see, we have another little keyframe that is being generated automatically because we were creating the movement here. And as you can see, you're already done your very first animation. Magic. If you press your space bar, you're gonna see the animation happening. So remember, first position, and then click on the little diamond here where it says position. But let's create another effect to explore more about the animation. So what happened if the cloud, we wanted to go and become like, a little bit darker. So imagine that there is no cloud and then the cloud appears, because the cloud is water and we want to be very realistic in our creation. So I'm going to click on the cloud, and in this case I'm going to bring the opacity of the cloud to 0. Here from our layers at the top we can see the opacity. We drag it down to 0, and we make sure that we close our boat and we go into our cloud. And as you can see, we're working with, of course, opacity. We're gonna bring it back, so make sure that you always move first this little cursor that it moves in time, and we're gonna click on the opacity timer in order to record our first keyframe, which is 0 opacity for our cloud. And then we're gonna drag it to the end, and we can see the boat moving, and at the same time we're gonna bring the opacity of the cloud to 100. So you can see that going from 0 as the boat moves, and we're gonna click on play to let it play, the lovely cloud comes up. Now what if I don't want the cloud and the boat moving at the same time? Because it just looks sometimes a little bit silly that things, oops, sorry, I just opened my email, shouldn't have done that. Let me go ahead and make sure that we quit mail. Perfect. So sorry for that. And how do we make sure that we move our cloud and our both in different times, because we don't want them to happen at the same time. So very simple. All we have to do is to make sure that we create another of this keyframe where our lovely cloud is still at 0% opacity. So all I'm gonna do is to come back here and move along this little time setter here, and we're gonna move these first yellow diamond here. So, and we're gonna go back to the very beginning and bring the cloud back to 0 opacity as it is, and click on the diamond. So basically we're telling Photoshop that at time 0 we're gonna have 0 opacity up to this first second where we're still gonna have 0 opacity, and then from this point on we're gonna start to build the opacity of the cloud. Let's move it back. I'm gonna make this window a little bit smaller so we can actually see happening on the artboard. So the boats start moving. If we press play, the boats start moving, and then only afterwards we have our cloud coming up with the opacity. Something else that we can perhaps have is the style, and we're gonna do that on top of the actual background here. So I'm gonna create a copy of the background by selecting the layer and pressing Command J, and then I'm gonna go ahead and select just this top part. First of all, I'm gonna create a mask using this little mask tool here, and I'm gonna add a layer mask, and I'm gonna go ahead and use another option, which is our gradient. So I'm gonna go ahead and create an adjustment. Sorry, I'm actually gonna use the gradient here on the effects, and so we're gonna create a gradient on top of the background, but I just wanted to affect the sky. So in this case all we have is a gradient that applies to the sky. I'm gonna nice and bold. You can choose whatever gradient you want. I'm so sorry I'm going so fast, but unfortunately we don't have much time, so I just want to make sure that we are squeezing as much as possible. You can then go back and see more during the replay. You can always stop and come back to that. So I've just added a gradient, but the reason why I created a mask is because I want to make sure that it only affects the sky and not the sea. So remember, when you're working in Photoshop and you mask, white reveal, black conceal. So all we gotta do is to go and click in our selection and go over the sea, making sure that we have our mask selected. So as you can see, we have these little corners that hold our mask, that telling us, yeah, you're working on the mask thumbnail. And then go back and making sure that our swatches are black and white. Press Command and Delete to apply the foreground color, which in this case is black. And as I mentioned before, black conceal, white reveal. So by covering the mask with black, boom, we only have our gradient happening on the sky. Now let's move back into the gradient, because I really want to make a little bit more bolder color here. Here it is, because I really want to make sure that we do see our gradient happening. Maybe if we reverse it, I think that's nice. We can see it here. Press OK and press OK again. I like it like that. It's almost like the sky is getting darker here. So how do we make this happen? In the background copy, as you can see, the layers that are on the timeline mimic the exact layer that we can see in the layer panel, and you don't have to do anything. Update automatically. We have also more option happening: layer mask position and enable layer mask. Well, all we need right now is simply to have the layer mask, which is the style, appear. So what are we going to do? In this case, we're going to use the style. In this case, we're going to bring it back, and as you can see, because my little time handle there was in a different position where I was working, it kind of brought back our new layer forward. It started from where I was starting. All you have to do is simply bring it back to the origin, so we have this effect from the beginning. And in this case, once you click in style, I'm going to deselect this effect layer, press Command D to deselect whatever pixel we had selected to hide the sea. And in this case, I'm going to click on our little timer to set our first existing keyframe to no style. So in this case we've hidden our gradient, and then I'm gonna move forward, and once our cloud is gonna start to appear, we are gonna start to bring up our gradient. Now I'm going to show you what happened here. If I bring the gradient here, first of all, we already automatically have created another diamond, which is going to give us the effect. So as you can see, it builds up to the effect. But what we want is for that to happen gradually. So we're just going to place this effect at the very end, and as you can see, it's going to gradually build there. Now something else that I want to do is to happen with opacity. So I'm just going to go back and also bring this layer to 0 opacity, making sure that we actually are on the opacity. So just going to go back here into my opacity and click and make sure that we bring it to 0. So we're saying at the beginning of the time, I want this to have 0 opacity. And then when we move towards the end, we bring the opacity to 100. So not only we're going to have our lovely gradient appearing, but it's also appear gradually. Now we have pretty much 4 minutes left. I want to say goodbye. I want to wrap it up. But as you can see, there are infinite things that you can create. Of course, if you want to know more about the timeline, because we didn't have much time today, I can read the chat. I'm just giggling here there. Can we arrange the cloud from white into dark gray as if a storm is coming? Yes, absolutely. So all you have to do in that case, again, is always a problem solving. So in this case, I will probably have either a color overlay applied, or I will save 2 different clouds, and I will have the white cloud disappear while the gray cloud appears. Completely up to you. That's the beauty of working with this fantastic app. Unleash your creativity. In order to save, go there into this little burger menu on the side, make sure the loop playback is selected, and go ahead and render your video. Now, there are different options that are usually there. I use the document size, making sure that the frame per second is the same frame per second that you can see down here in your timeline panel, and just click on render. And it should save, depending this completely up to your computer how fast it works, but it works. It gets saved in a MP4. Here it is. Let me double click on it, and we have our lovely animation. Isn't that so cute? So I look forward to see what you have done. Make sure to tag me so I can share your work and I can give you feedback on my Instagram. Before I say goodbye, I'm gonna jump real quick into the schedule because we have a super packed creative day here at Adobe Live. ¿Cuál plataforma usa para grabar? I believe I used the Photoshop. If you keep it in English would be better. I think it record. You can use OBS to record yourself if that's the question. There is a beautiful session from Paul Trani on how to set up your streaming, Michelle, if that's your question. But I'm gonna pass that ball, the creative fireball, to Jesus Ramirez, which is in San Francisco, and he's gonna go ahead and get started in a few minutes with the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge with so many beautiful Photoshop juices there, and then drawing and painting with Ann Shen, and I believe portfolio review there. Fantastic session. I believe also that Voodoo Val is there hosting her, so amazing session coming up, followed by a fun-filled Illustrator Daily Creative Challenge with Andrew. And I have a little bit of secret to tell you, another secret for today. There is a crazy session coming out with me and Andrew, so keep your eyes peeled on the schedule, and it's coming up next week. And also at 12 p.m. we have Alexi Bustos with Adobe XD Workflow and Pro Tips, and also Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge with Aaron Pinsky at 2 p.m. closing the day with Doodle Therapy with Alice Lee. A fantastic day coming up for you, so stay tuned. I'm gonna be in the chat. I'll check you guys on, of course, Instagram, on Discord. Make sure to follow us. It's been an absolute honor and a pleasure to be here with you. You have all the resources there. You have the files that we use. Remember, iamcladi.com/resources to download the file, at iamcladi on Instagram to say hello, or also on Discord. Beautiful. It's been amazing to be here with you. It's time to say goodbye. Thank you so much for having shared your time with me. I had a blast. Thank you for keeping me company. I love this Adobe Live fun. But it's time to say goodbye and to get ready for some Photoshop skills in the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge with Asus. Goodbye, friends. I'll see you soon.